thank you everybody here on behalf of Caesar's Calls for tuning into our AMA with AltCTRL. Again, anybody who is not able to tune in, or if you have to leave throughout the AMA, you could always catch the recording either pinned up in their Telegram channel or posted up on our YouTube channel within 24 hours. So AltCTRL launched on February 22nd on Ethereum, and personally had a nice little run up in the first couple of days. They were in a little bit of a dip last night when I got the post up. It seems like they've recovered back to around 950K, which is fantastic. And the concept here, I mentioned it a few times in our lead up, all surrounds, what they call as no code. And, I did specify in our write-up, there's some really interesting benefits when it comes to developers and project leads, being able to take advantage. There's also some great end user benefits here. And, one of the easiest things to point to for that would be if you've gone into their website and potentially tried to utilize their decentralized aggregator to swap, getting up to 40% reduction in gas fees. I think, from what I've seen most of the times, the traditional Uniswap methods are using MetaMask, you're getting around $60 to $65. Well, what I've seen for the most parts is these guys are coming around the $42 to $46 range, when MetaMask and, the traditional Uniswap method is hitting around 60 to 65. So obviously that's a great savings. It's a tool that I think more and more people are going to be looking for as Ethereum fees and gas continues to rise towards the bull run. I mean, look at what happened last night with the market pumping. Gas was hitting some pretty wild numbers. So it's stuff like this that does have value as, the larger volume movements happen into different chains. And I know Ethereum is one that's set to lead for this next bull run. So that's a little bit kind of on the use case and whatnot, but that's just one of their utilities. They have a cool way that they've branded their yield farms, which is trending farms, and we'll explain why throughout, as well as, a suite of more do your own research tools, charting tools and whatnot to allow people to make the most informed decisions. So really, impressed by what I've seen so far. It is my first time working with the team, but I've heard they put on a pretty good presentation, so I'm excited to have them here today. Make sure you guys are checking out the community, following along through the white paper. But yeah, definitely like what these guys are doing so far. And I will say, solid name, really good name with AltCTRL. So yeah, let's hear a little bit more about what you guys are bringing to the table. And the last part I have to add is these guys love cats. I couldn't forget that in our lead up. So Jimmy, if you want to introduce yourself and your role within the team, and then a little bit more on AltCTRL, happy to pass you over the mic.
Thank you. So I'm I am the founder and main developer of AltCTRL, actually the only developer of AltCTRL. I started in crypto around 2021. I had a project before, was really well, moved on from that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Jimmy?
Yeah, so I'm Jimmy. My role in the team is essentially, under my umbrella comes project management, generally tracking tasks, delegating, things like that, but also business development. So coming up with ideas, how we can move forward, new products, ways we can incorporate those in our ecosystem. And yeah, just generally looking after day-to-day activities of the project, and yeah, working with three and making things happen.
Now, well, great to meet both of you. And again, like the name, like the concept. So why don't you introduce us a little bit more to what led you to create AltCTRL, and, really the premise of no code and what you're trying to build out here.
Yeah, sure. So, honestly, our journey here begins nearly 2 years ago. We were in a project together, and towards the end of that project, I had decided that I was like, okay, what can we add to this project that's going to bring utility, that's going to bring users to the project, investors to the project. And I was like, okay, farms, super easy. everybody loves that. Let's go ahead and do that. We ended up implementing that into the platform that we had at the time. But unfortunately, that project did die. But I had that, I guess, sort of moment where I was like, why, we were already deciding like, hey, like these farms, we could have other projects on board with us. Um, and during that process of finding, okay, who's going to do the farm contracts, who's going to do this, that, like it was just really overly complicated. And I was just like, fuck it, let's just build a tool that automatically does this for you so you don't have to worry about it. So that's just kind of how we got into that. But yeah, once the project had died, we were just like, you know what, let's create a project that really focuses on utility and focuses on empowering users and project owners and helping them, through these technical aspects of having to find developers, having to find somebody trustworthy even. So that's really where that kind of came about.
Okay, my mic came off there that time. I wasn't sure. No, and I think again, anybody who's been involved in the space, from a creation standpoint, from a pricing standpoint, development standpoint, or if you're more of an ideas person like yourself, and maybe you're not necessarily as skilled when it comes to Solidity or contract creation. I think most people probably have a story where they've likely overpaid or had somebody paid and then they never received what they were supposed to in terms of product delivery, right? So I think, there's a lot of situations, a lot of stories that it's always like, what problem are you trying to solve, right? And I said that to you when we were in the lead up. Well, the problem that you guys are trying to solve, inherently through that is the cost or the lack of delivery from these people that, non-solidity individuals like myself have to rely on for things to be completed in the space. And then as a non-developer, do you really know the cost of what you bought? Is it legitimate? Are you getting ripped off? And there's just so much doubt and uncertainty, I think, that happens because of how the space operates that, there's a need for a tool like this. So, adoption takes time, community growth takes time, but in terms of identifying a problem and looking to solve it, there's definitely something there with, AltCTRL. So, great job, at least in terms of the initial identification of something. And, you guys are working to build up towards solving it. So I think, so far, so good and less than a week old. So I always like to preface that for utility play.
Yeah, and actually, I want to emphasize again here that the token itself is less than a week old, but we have been building for the last 2 years. After that last project, like I said, we decided that we were going to really focus on just utility. We were actually very adamant for a very long time that we were not going to do a token. So literally, we spent the last 2 years developing the idea, developing the product, really building upon what we had. And when we finally got to the point where it was like, okay, we have physically exhausted every and all options, capabilities that we have, we now have to move into, I guess, external funding. That's when we decided to do the token. And that's not to say that, we did the token uh, purely just because we need the money. We obviously have incorporated the AltCTRL token into the platform itself.
And I mean, I think, what you said is really accurate, but I think there's personally nothing wrong with, needing some additional funding, regardless if it's the sole usage. You guys can use that funds even if you have it for additional developing, for additional marketing, to help with adoption, for beta testers for your products as you roll out new stuff. So, you know, creating a token and integrating it into, the utility, it's not necessarily the worst thing because it does give you some added funding. And I know you guys as well have a slight tax on the project too. So you could rely on that a little bit, from a volume perspective to keep pushing. So I respect how long you guys have been building. I know if anybody checked out the Twitter that you could see token launched in February, but your posts and some of the testing, some of the information on the actual utility go all the way back to like last October when you started community building. So you can see that like what you're saying is accurate.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, like I said, you know, you're absolutely right. I mean, VC funds are a thing. You know, funding is definitely a thing to help projects get off the map, really. But we definitely are very much against you know, having I guess, well, not against, but I generally don't like the idea of launching a token solely for the purpose of generating revenue from it. I came into crypto for the technology of it. I believe in what it does. So it was really important for me to have a use case for the token. And, you know, that's why I'm incredibly thankful for Jimmy, because he's really helped you know, he's really helped us incorporate the token into the platform, into our DAO, which is a really huge aspect of all control. I don't know if Jimmy wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit.
We, like Tree said, we wanted to, the token is not just a token so people can buy it, we can generate taxes and make money off that. We really wanted the token to have a legitimate use, to be something that's not just a revenue generator through taxes. So that's why we incorporated our DAO and our governance into the entire project. And there's quite a few elements that go into that. But the primary goal of AltCTRL is to generate revenue through our services. So eventually our token's going to have no tax once we're at the point of generating revenue from services. So that really shows that the token is there for a tool. The primary use, or the two use cases of that token, is one, to pay part of the service, but then there's the governance, and the governance is about community members using their tokens as votes to vote on use of a treasury. Now, I don't know, I've got to talk for a long time to explain that. Maybe we can get on it later, but in simple terms, yeah, the tokens will be used for governance.
Okay, now in terms of like on top of governance, are there going to be any additional use cases built in from a like payment perspective, or are you ultimately going to try and keep anything fee-based, non-native, so like Ethereum or something more stable based, so that you guys don't have to necessarily sell or have any negative pressure come onto the chart?
Yeah, 100%. We definitely didn't want to do 100% payment in the token, because obviously we need to get paid. We need money to live. This is our job. So if payment's 100% in the token, that's just gonna, we have to sell to make money. That's going to impact it bad. So the revenue that comes in payment from our token, those tokens will go back into the ecosystem, back into staking rewards, building up our treasury that we own of control to be able to give back to the community. So those tokens won't be sold. We've got a pretty firm thing we're sticking to, that we don't want to sell our own token. I just think it's crazy that projects rely on that for their funding. We really want to focus on revenue generation from our services, and the token is a side aspect that can support that.
Yeah, I also, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Three. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of expand on that a little bit. So as Jimmy said, you know, we aren't just taking the token into consideration when it comes to paying for fees for our services. Obviously, we do have to sustain ourselves, so we accept both native currencies and the token. But I also do want to point out that holding the token itself does give you special access to exclusive farms, airdrops. It gives you, a chance to earn more rewards. Holding the token basically unlocks more opportunities for you on the platform. So, it's not just our services that is the token is being utilized in. It's also going to be the the actual platform itself and what you can do on it.
Wow. So, like, for example, if I wanted to come in, like, what's the process for me to either create a contract, deploy a contract, or if I'm an end user, how simple is it to get connected with my wallet to one of your applications so that I can, benefit from the reduced gas fees? I'm just trying to figure out, the onboarding process, because I know you guys actually have like an education center, and onboarding and education is a focus for you, which is really, really important. And it marries with what you're doing really nicely. But I'm just trying to figure out what the full on process is, how simple it is for somebody to get set up. Because if you guys are, reducing, for example, 25% of the workflow from a competitive product out there that's looking to do the same thing, well, your adoption rate's going to grow that much quicker because, coming from a sales background, the amount of steps you take out in the pipeline, the quicker people are going to flow through. So that's kind of the basis of my question, if it makes sense. I know it was a little bit longer winded, so I apologize.
Yeah, no problem at all. So for our project owners, it's actually a super easy process. I mean, I actually forwarded you a little video kind of showcasing one of the first things you do whenever you get onto the platform, which okay, so this is uh, let me explain a little bit about the pilot console and how that also kind of sets us apart. So essentially, the pilot console is a separate platform from our DApp front end. This is more so or strictly for project owners or token pilots, as we like to call them, who get invited and who are approved, for them to come in and import their token and essentially, create their farms, create their airdrops, create whatever it is that they want to do. So on this dashboard, I guess is a good thing to call it. I showed that video where it's essentially, a form where you just paste in your token contract, information gets pulled in, and then you have the option to add in, some information about your token, like the tokenomics, taxes, things like that. You can expect all of our forms, which is what our tools are. They're essentially forms, to be just like this. It's super easy. It's idiot proof. And trust me, when I say idiot proof, I have been working with tons of devs who I honestly cannot believe, how they even got to be devs. I've been working with these people just to, ensure that this process is easy, simple, it makes sense. And again, like I said, it's idiot proof. So yeah, all you have to do is just fill out a form, press deploy, and bam, you're done. Obviously, you connect your wallet. Simple process there, normally like how you do it anywhere else. And yeah, that it's a really simple, easy process.
No, I love that. And I mean, that's, I like the word idiot proof too, because even myself, I'm educated, but when I came into crypto, do you ever feel like you're in a whole different world, right? And like you're asking these questions. I know, like, the first time I sat beside Caesar as I tried to buy a token in a pre-sale, I think the dude wanted to choke me out because I was probably asking him so many questions that for him seemed so basic. But for me, as a new buyer, as somebody who understood nothing about the space, new to having a wallet set up, I felt like they were important. And he's just like, dude, can you just buy it already? Like, stop asking me so many questions. You're annoying me. I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out on my own. Thanks. Right. So I think there is, that's really, really important to have it set up. So you're even confident that, somebody with no experience in Solidity could go in there, read through, follow the material that you have, and get at least to a point where they feel comfortable in what they're doing, right? So the other side of the equation is getting them launched, assisting them with the initial setup is good, but there is a portion that yeah, I know you guys are looking to do, and let me just see how I specifically worded it here. Is you guys are kind of branding yourself out as a utility services company, which is very unique. Like not a lot of projects from like a branding or association standpoint would do that. Personally, I love it. As a service type businesses, I think it's a really good business model going forward. And where I'm going, my question is, what do you do after the fact? Now, getting them onboarded, getting them set up, token potential or contracts created now in theory. Now, where does the alt control support level go from that point in time? Because ultimately, a way you guys can grow in traction is having projects launch and then perform very well out of your protocol. But for those greener or more organic people, the space can be a little bit daunting. They don't have the connections. They don't have the networks for marketing. They maybe get scammed from these people who are offering them, free AMAs or discounted AMAs when, to cover this when there's not going to be a return. And it's essentially, if you do that 5-6 times, well, you just lost 5-6 times a small amount of money that can add up quickly. So my question is more so from a services side. Are you guys going to build out an arm for more after support? And, how does the monetization maybe work back to the project with that?
Oh my God. Actually, and see, this is another thing that sets us apart. And I don't want to sound egotistical. I don't want to sound like, we have it all going on. But the thing is that we do have these, you know, extra things that we're doing that actually goes above and beyond what anybody else is doing in the space. So for example, we actually have a dedicated wallet, our treasury wallet, that we use to support projects that we partner with that come to us. That, let's say somebody creates a farm. The project is amazing, team, amazing community, but they just don't have the marketing. And it's hard to it's uh it's hard to do marketing when you have no marketing funds. So they can come to Alt Control and say, hey, we would like to come to the board and apply for, some funding for our marketing, for example. They could totally do that. So it doesn't just go beyond us technically supporting them throughout the process. We also support them after everything is all said and done. And I don't know if Jamie wants to kind of touch on that or if he has any other comments to say.
Yeah, sure. This is probably my favorite thing to talk about with this project. The part that's closest to me, the part that I've thought about and meditated on the longest. And this is going to sound really cliche. It's going to sound really lame, but far more than the platform that we're building and the services we're building, we're really trying to build a community. This community and ecosystem and network of like-minded project developers, like-minded investors. And we've probably all been involved in projects before, and you're just there. The community is amazing. The developers are transparent. They're trustworthy. They're, just these dream projects. And our goal is to pick out these projects and bring them together. These dream investors, these dream project developers, and bring them together in our little sphere, and use Alt Control to tie them together. So this has so many benefits for both sides. Investors have a place where they can go, where they can find genuinely safe projects, and then for the project owners, they then get exposure as being part of this network. And it's not just I wrote a Medium article the other day, sort of explaining the concept of it, and we've seen it already. Even with our project, we've partnered with a few projects already, and every community of these projects already, there's members from each one in each other's chats. They're getting along, they're supporting each other, and even at this really early stage, we've seen extremely heavy benefits from just building this network. And I don't know if 3 wants to touch on it, but we have measures in place to ensure that this community we're building and this network of projects we're building are safe, like guaranteed safe.
Another,
sorry.
Go ahead, Corey, if you had to add something on. I was going to say that was something I also talked with you a little bit about in our lead up, right? Which is like, what is safe, right? Because it's an interesting word to throw around in crypto. So just for anybody who maybe doesn't know, the team doesn't understand what the process is, you guys do have SAFU project alerts, but understanding what the vetting process is like internally to be approved for that. And then, for example, if something goes through that maybe doesn't meet the standards, is it possible? I know you provided me an example of the SAFU report that will come up when a token gets created, but I just wanted to walk through that a little bit more because, yeah, safe is an interesting word within crypto.
Yeah, sure. So I just want to say this real quick before I forget. I actually just made a buy on the platform, and I shared a screenshot with you. That was live. If you want to share, just showcasing like literally how much you can expect to pay in fees compared to Uniswap. That was like $20 more on Uniswap. But yeah, so sorry about that. So in regards to our vetting process, so essentially in order to list or utilize our services, you have to be KYC'd or you have to be vetted. We're currently working on building this process. Right now, we have, in all transparency, the only way that we have listed projects is through vetting. The projects that we've listed so far, I personally know the developers. I've worked with them before, or it was recommended by somebody who personally knows the team. And I want to say that once we do start enforcing KYC, it's not going to just be okay, set it and forget it. We actually do plan on enforcing, if you do come with us, you're KYC'd, and you do something malicious, we will pursue legal action. And unfortunately, that's just something that other projects, even auditing companies, don't do that. I have yet to see an auditing company receive, like, oh, this was 100% a scam, and they did nothing. I have yet to see a project that actually did something for that. So we plan to actually enforce these rules and pursue legal action. And I feel like that is something that definitely sets us apart from others.
I mean, that's really, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be excited to see like kind of how the rollout goes with that and what types of dev teams and creators that you guys are able to get in, because somebody who's maybe a little bit more experienced, I guess, like outside of the cost of the deployment, like what are some of the ways that just have to word some of these questions. Sorry, so apologies, I'm kind of trying to find my words throughout, but like develop teams, people who are maybe able to run the bigger projects and are going to be able to bring you guys the hype or some of the growth and the volume into the ecosystem that you need. Like they may have other options, or they just may be comfortable deploying manually. So from your end, like what are the main selling features to these good developers to just come in and test, you know, the control protocol? Because, you know, that's, people aren't that willing to change. And it's unfortunate because there's some phenomenal utilities, some tools that exist out here that just can't get the traction because of that fact. So what is really your plan to onboard some of these good devs and give them the benefits outside of just, you know, the contract fees on the deployment, to make them want to come to AltCTRL?
So the biggest thing that we have to offer for our project owners is the fact that we never touch, hold, control, whatever, your smart contracts. Unfortunately, with a lot of other places, it's going to be that you either have to ask them to, you know, you give them your information, they deploy the contracts for you, and then, you know, they transfer it over to you and you go on your merry way. We, you know, we definitely, uh, you know, give you literally more control. In addition to that, our gas fees, significantly cheaper gas fees than you're going to see anywhere else. Not to mention our transparency. We have been completely transparent with everything that we've done so far. You know, I think we shared our marketing wallets, and we encourage our investors to go and search through the to search through our transactions. But yeah, those are pretty much going to be like the primary reasons why you want to come to us versus anybody else.
I mean, again, I really kind of like the concept. It seems super simplistic. I mean, who doesn't want to save a little bit of money on their deployment? Doesn't matter if you're experienced or relatively new to deploying. I mean, those that are experienced, it should just be that much simpler for them, right? And that's necessarily not a bad thing, you know, if so. I guess on the flip side, it's I guess there's a negative of really understanding how to deploy, right? So it's like, do you guys have a cutoff based on past projects? I know you mentioned the KYC side of things, but some of the really experienced deployers, like that's not a good thing necessarily because they could be serial deploying for liquidity farms or whatnot. So like, how do you, yeah, like that, I guess is the flip side of the equation. There's always a silver lining, right?
Yeah, so part of the vetting process is going to be give us your wallet. We want to see a wallet with transaction history, and we want to see what you've been doing with it. And I feel like serial deployers, they're going to hear that and they're going to be like, fuck, I don't really, you know, I have a shit ton of wallets because I do a shit ton of farming. You know, it's going to be a little bit trickier for them to get behind that or around that. I'm sorry.
That's
There's a
oh, go ahead, Jimmy.
there's an analogy that I like to use to sort of describe what we're trying to do with this and with the projects we work with. And you know, if you just consider two restaurants, you imagine you have a fine dining restaurant, Michelin star, and then compare that to McDonald's. Now, McDonald's has the volume. They just pump out, you know, millions of cheeseburgers, and, you know, anyone who comes with a couple of dollars, yep, they give the cheeseburger, and they've got that real high volume. But, you know, compared to this Michelin star restaurant, you know, that just slowly churns out extremely high quality food, you know, you can't compare the two. So I'm just likening, you know, AltCTRL wants to be like that Michelin star restaurant. We want to just not compromise on quality, you know, for the sake of volume or for this. So if there's developers that, you know, they're not meeting our standards, we're not going to compromise our standards for them. We want to have this reputation of being the best. There's a standard there that we're not going to drop to suit what others are doing, and you know, we're willing to sacrifice the volume to do that.
Sorry, I was just dropping a couple of those screenshots into the chat from the recent buy that three had put through. What was it? 67.99 using control, and then 88.54. So just a little bit over like 21, around $21 in savings on gas just from one buy. So yeah, I appreciate three you sending that through. And I love the analogy, Jimmy, in terms of Michelin versus McDonald's, right? Really trying to get the high quality, really trying to avoid some of the fat, pun intended, if you will. And yeah, you necessarily don't have to have lots of projects or lots of things deploying through your ecosystem. What you do want to have is good projects, and then you're going to be trying, and then that, if those deployers, those developers, those communities start to run and grow, well, the narrative that you guys can have through collaborations and maybe start to pull in some of those community members that liked the process of the launch, that felt it went very smooth, well then, inherently your community can grow just based on the success of projects that launch through your protocol. So focusing on quality versus quantity, 100%. And I think that should always be the way to go in life. So great response, Jimmy. And definitely not many holes I could find, not many things that stand out as red flags in the early stage. It's a good concept. There's definitely a need for it. You seem to have a really good, like, detailed, like, why behind it. And I said to three, like, for me, it's really important to connect the dots and understand, like, the thought process. So it definitely seems like you've really put together some good tools that people will use and have value, not just to teams, but also to users. So I would like to go into some of the yield farms that you guys are kind of creating, and how that's going to work on within the ecosystem, because you have a unique name, which I love. You're branding your own utilities in-house, or something that fits your brand, which is great. So just walk us through a little bit more on your trending farms, which is traditionally classified as what you might be used to as a yield farm in the space.
So I just want to clarify real quick. They're called alt farms, and the little trending farms that you see is actually going to be a widget on our platform, basically showcasing all of the farms that are currently trending on the platform. Just a little clarification.
Yeah, yield farm side of things is, it's going to be, I'm assuming it's more short term than rewards or benefits, and that it's going to be offered to projects launching directly through the deploying through AltCTRL,
Yeah,
or will there be ability for projects to participate or buy slots if they're not launched directly through your ecosystem?
yeah. So essentially, the farms are available to anybody who applies and gets approved to come onto our platform. So essentially, what happens is a project owner will come, get invited, get approved, make an account on the platform, blah blah blah, and they'll fill out the farm form. Essentially, just basic details like, well, how long do you want the farm to be? What APY do you want to set? Do you want to have cool down, warm up options, etc.? They really get to go in there and customize their farm. And once they customize their farm, they deploy it. And once that farm gets deployed, it gets pushed onto the platform. And I actually shared, well, I guess you shared a screenshot of what looks like a little project page. Essentially, what that is that token's listing page, and this is where their farm will be hosted. So yeah. Oh wait, did you post it? I don't see it. Let me see if I can.
Let me see if there's any that I missed here. I
Oh
might
wait,
not have gotten
it is.
those.
Yeah, it's in there. Let me respond to it.
The LNF one, the Lonely Fans.
Yeah, so that's an example of a token page that, let's say this token came and they launched with us. So they would get a token, their own little custom token page. And if you look at the very bottom, there's that little farm icon. You would click on that, and there's their farm. So super simple. Essentially, what those trending farms would be are farms that have, the who have had the most staking, or people who have, well, there's a lot of different factors that are going to go into the trending, but essentially these are going to be farms that have seen the most success on the platform.
Perfect. No, and I like the graphics. Like everything's just super clean. And I think I saw a couple of people give that feedback when I shared the video you provided me in the comments section. Is they're just like, man, like the visuals and just the cleanliness of the site is really top tier. So it's great to see from a feedback perspective. I'm just trying to see some of the questions here that I've seen coming through. Make sure we cover off everything. Now the community was really hoping you could expand a little bit more. So I'll read this question out specifically because while we're on the topic of the pilot, this is a good question to get into. So this one's from Bernardo. Bernardo Chains is his username. Are there plans to launch a mobile app version for the pilot console to complement the desktop experience that you guys are currently building out? On your white paper, I see that you guys will mention there's going to be an airdrop component. I was really curious what the criteria are to be met before qualifying for those airdrops. Do you have to be a token holder of control, or is it more so for activity levels within the ecosystem? So that one is from Bernardo Chains.
Thank you for the question, Bernardo. So the airdrops are similar to the farms in that this is a tool for project owners to deploy their own airdrop and their own farm. So this isn't necessarily an AltCTRL airdrop, it's anybody's airdrop. And obviously those parameters are going to be specific to the project owner. So let's say that they're like, okay, you have to like this post on Twitter, and follow us on or join our Telegram groups, etc. Once you meet those requirements, then you get their airdrop. That's kind of an example of how that'll work. And to even push it a little further, if you're a control holder, you stand to get a little bit more of an extra reward compared to other investors. Now, as for the mobile app, yes, definitely. I would absolutely love to do something like that. But if I'm being completely honest, that's not something that we will probably do until, let's say, next year at the earliest. I would personally do it myself and start working on it now. But I'm a full stack developer, but I'm not a mobile app developer.
Okay. Now, so if that is a route that you may go, it would just have to you may have to bring somebody else on board to help with the mobile expansion. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Which, if I'm being completely honest, I hate the idea of that, just because literally everything that you see on the platform, I built myself. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. Obviously, it was a team effort. None of it could have been possible without my team. But I mean, the technical development was just me. So to kind of have somebody else take control of the mobile app development, it's going to hurt a little bit, but I think it's going to be for a good cause.
I think so too. And again, who knows? Maybe you find somebody kind of like yourself, three, but on the mobile side, and you guys could develop some no code mobile applications or onboarding. So you never know. Like it's kind of exciting, and if the fit or the match of skill sets is there, it could just expand your offering. Um, so that might be cool too in the future if that is an option or a route that makes sense and fits the growth of the project. Now, I don't traditionally like to go into concepts like marketing because, every project kind of markets what they're doing, but it's more so community engagement, any initiatives, any contests, any ways in which the community's participation is going to benefit the project and like what can they see out of that. I think that's really where I'd rather go instead of just more of a basic marketing discussion.
Yeah, no. So I'm just gonna say this right off the bat, just because we really do believe in transparency and honesty. So we are currently in our degen marketing phase. What this means is that we are primarily focused on promoting the token, and the benefits of the token, and just trying to get people to invest, right? This isn't going to be the normal for us. Once we kind of establish ourselves, we get our ground or our footing, we're going to move on to actual professional marketing towards project owners. So just to put that out there, in terms of what marketing or I guess shilling, participating, just more so being active in the community gets you is it gets you a spot on the board. If you're a holder and you are constantly being active, you're constantly, showing up, you stand a chance to get on the board. Like we mentioned before, the board is essentially our DAO. The board is our, top 20 investors, and these investors aren't just people who are holding the most amount of tokens. These are people who hold the token and also participate. They show up, they engage. So we really try to be equitable in terms of the board. But I think, Jimmy, do you want to touch a little bit more on the marketing side of things?
Yeah, sure thing. So a huge part of marketing that we're going to move into in the very near future that will be a real draw and benefit for our community is affiliate marketing. So essentially, we can only do so much to try and reach project developers and showcase our product to them and things like that. We can run ads and whatnot to try and draw those, but affiliate marketing and people's personal networks and private groups, that's where the trust is. So we want to incorporate, I guess you would call like a commission-based sales through affiliate marketing. So if members of the community are able to contact project developers and say, hey guys, look, this is AltCTRL, they offer these services, you should check them out. If that project then, if we onboard that project, then that community member who has orchestrated that will be rewarded. And, we're fair. We want to help everyone out and pay a fair amount for that. So, percentage-based commissions on those services can be quite rewarding for the community. That's just a way that we can utilize our network and really, rather than trying to do a really broad reach marketing, affiliate internal network marketing is extremely powerful, and we're definitely going to utilize that in the near future.
I think that's really, that's really good. And I've seen some, the ambassador program, the referral system, the way it's set up. I think that's a smart way to go. And clearly you guys already know like the rule of how you should stagger it in terms of the rule of returns. You got to get at least I always recommend a project's like a 5-to-1 benefit to be able to really make it sustainable long term. But you know, users are still getting a nice benefit, so ultimately they should still want to participate, and you guys are kind of making sure you maintain it the top half of that. So I like that. One of the things too for me when it comes to education and onboarding, you know, that pairs well with marketing is like language, right? Because somebody may not have the skill set, but they may have the ideas, but then it's how functional is it across the globe, being that crypto is very global. So do you guys have different languages that are operational? Is there translation services? Does AI play a part in terms of how people can maybe interact with the ecosystem to, if they're not an English native speaker, make it easier throughout? Like, what's the onboarding process or translation side of things for inclusivity?
Yeah, sure. So actually, if you go onto the platform right now, you know, you can click on the sidebar and you'll see a little settings, and then you'll see language, and you'll see that we currently have 5 languages that we offer. You know, Czech, German, English, Spanish, and Chinese. So yeah, you know, in terms of you know, I guess um letting this be accessible to other people, literally, like if you come in and you're like, hey, can you add this language to the site? Oh yeah, sure, definitely. I mean, I can even show you screenshots where, you know, 2 investors were like, hey, can you add Czech, can you add German? And I was like, yeah, on it right now. So definitely not a problem for us. You know, I love to try and get as much people as we can on there, and part of that process is going to be making it accessible.
That was a great answer. Really, really cool. Yeah, no, didn't know most projects don't go to market with more than one language. So the fact that uh you know, you have multiple available right off the bat of the token launch, although you did mention, you know, I know you guys have been building out quite some time prior to it, for me is nice to see that you launched with stuff that's ready. So, you know, big respect there. That's for sure.
Yeah, and also I just want to point out that on the platform, if you're on desktop and you press Command O, it opens the sidebar and it closes it. I think that is my favorite feature of the platform. That was kind of
Wow,
lame, but
you even have shortcuts built in. That's pretty cool.
yeah, we even have shortcuts built in, and like that to me is like, yes, that's how you know when you as a platform made it. You have keyboard shortcuts.
I can't lie. I'm very impressed, Three, by what yourself and Jimmy are building out over there. I like the concept, even just chatting, and I said that, you know, to you, but you know, it's always, you know, hearing it and you know, doing my own research is sometimes a little bit of a different feel. So well thought out. I'm really, yeah, no, big
Yeah,
fan.
yeah, and also I do want to point out that we actually do have Sarah on the team. She's one of our other founders, and I, you know, just got to give credit where credit's due. You know, it wasn't just me, Jimmy, and Sarah, or I mean, just me and Jimmy. It was also Sarah and also Toria, who is our you know, team assistant. So literally, couldn't have done it without either of them.
I think I chatted a little bit yesterday with Sarah in the Telegram group when I popped in. She just had said, you know, no issues. We're happy to delay. I think she made a comment back yesterday. So no, that's awesome. And now I wanted to get into the fun side, right? Because there's 3 things. Like, you guys are obviously, you know, have the solid utility, it's working, but then the other side of the project, you know, the more fun side is you guys are a bunch of cat lovers over there. So I do want to kind of know and touch a little bit with you how the cat kind of comes into play. If there's, you know, anything you guys are doing when it comes to focusing, are those the types of projects you guys are going to gear towards, or just like how does that come into, you know, play with this one a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So if I am being 100% totally honest, I decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to do another project. It has to be aesthetically pleasing. It has to be very brandable, and it has to be cats. I love cats. You know, and you know, it's always been something that I'm just like very, very much passionate about. So it doesn't really have anything to do with the project itself, although we are building a narrative around it, kind of like Pancake Swap and how they have that you know, their little bunnies and whatever. We have our cats in space. So it's not really, you know, there's no benefit to the cats. It's just a fun little perk.
No, and that's completely okay, right? Like it doesn't have to be all utility all the time. Like, you know, you guys are definitely able to kick back, have some fun in there, and you know, maybe have like more of a cat themed like logo or branding, and yeah, just again, doesn't have to be all about utility. I think being able to kick back, have some fun, even if you guys were to go the route in the future of, you know, an NFT collection, cat themed, and donate like 50% of profits to a charity, you know, and cat, you know, that again, it's having fun and not having it take away from your core offering, but still being able to put a different layer into the project, I think is kind of what you're getting at with it with that. So there even could be some future potential there. Who knows, right? So that's exciting.
Oh yeah, exactly. And you know, that is precisely why I wanted to have a brandable, good, aesthetically pleasing logo and brand. You know, because by doing this, it not only shows people that we're serious about what we're doing and, you know, makes them interested, it also opens up opportunities like NFTs, you know, other things like it, you know, opens up more routes for us.
No, I like that one. And then considering that you guys are on Ethereum right now, I know that the bot and the creation side is focused on ETH. Makes sense because your key utility is, you know, saving and reducing gas fees with regards to the your AltDEX. Um, so it makes sense that Ethereum is the key chain to focus on with the highest fees. But our users are curious if you guys plan on expanding to additional chains from a token creation standpoint.
Oh yeah, definitely. So here's kind of the process and thinking of what we're doing. So essentially right now we do support Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain. Um, so we initially were going to, if you actually check on our website, you'll see a bunch of, you know, chains that obviously we don't have implemented. The thinking behind there was that whenever we launch our farms, we don't want to support a chain and then have nobody, you know, there. We have no farms there. It's just, you know, an empty page. I have seen actually quite a bit of projects that, you know, open up and they're supporting a shit ton of chains, and they have absolutely no projects, no utilities on there. It's just there for, you know, as a gimmick at that point. We decided that we were going to slowly start releasing. We were going to start releasing uh, additional chains once we could confirm that, oh hey, we have a project who's interested, let's go ahead and, you know, do the chain, you know, just so it's not empty and it just kind of looks a little bit bearish, in my opinion.
I agree. No point releasing something just to say, hey, we have it when it's not really going to add value, or it's almost like functioning as um, like a paperweight, like a digital paperweight at that point, right? If it's there's not much to it, I don't disagree. You'd probably be better off just spending the resources on areas that you really focus on at that time and you think are a good fit. So, a question. This one's from Aviator. Now, this is a bit more specific to region that he's from. So he'd mentioned, you know, I know here there's a yearly development competition hosted by a company called Andela, which is focuses on a massive hackathon for developers within different countries in Africa, where teams and developers are asked to create a functioning web app in the space of 2 weeks, giving them specific codes that should be embedded into their works. Winners get their works launched and sponsored. Now, would you guys, again, similar to that concept, this could be a really good way to incentivize or push no code and protocol and what you guys are doing and really the educational side. So like, have you ever thought about having launch events where you almost do like a training course, a seminar, and then you have the people who go through that course release, almost like mock products, get voted on, and then which ones seem the most feasible to succeed can maybe get us some support from you guys and actually go live. So that is a concept and a question that was from Mave Digger. Aviator is his name.
Yeah, sure. That's actually a wonderful question. And so right off the bat, is that something that we are going to do now? Definitely not. We just simply do not have the resources to do it now. However, in the future, would absolutely love to do something like that. I love the creativity behind these sorts of events. I love seeing what people can put together, and most of all, I love seeing people come together and just kind of have fun and build something. So yeah, definitely would absolutely love to do something like that.
Considering you're so focused on quality and like the vetting aspect to find good projects, would there be a point in time where you would look to shift for more of an
Ah,
I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
of
yeah.
an onboarding to an incubator where you're actually doing the support, investing in, and maybe even distributing a percent of what you would make as a profit back to holders of your own native CTRL token.
Yeah, sure. So definitely it's something that we could do, but I do just want to point out that we're literally still only just a few days old. The potential here is limitless. We already have our ideas of what we want to do this year, um, but obviously we are very very open to suggestions. And I do like the idea of incubation and creating these high quality projects, kind of like that analogy, going back to what Jimmy said, something like that. Excellent. I don't know if Jimmy wants to touch on that a little bit more.
No, I will say, like, a lot of our questions from our community, because we are very much, focused on the more kind of mid to long term here. So yeah, don't worry that some of the questions are more so like maybe 3, 6 months down the line. And that's why even in my write-up and kind of in my introduction, I did preface like, make sure you guys are aware, the token itself is only a couple of days old. And they're gonna, have to scale things out in stages, right? So it can't all just happen overnight. But I kind of got another one for you right along that lines, three, which is from a community member here, James Reed. James Reed, AKO, is his username. Now, the education is really cool here. Not a lot of projects personally focus enough on onboarding or actually making users feel comfortable with what the utilities that they're put out. Now, would you consider turning your education hub into more of a gamified system so that people, as they go through the different modules and whatnot, can earn points? And it actually puts more of an emphasis on using the tools, not just if you're a developer, like, maybe actually use the tools to grow your skill sets and make it more about learning versus just onboarding so that you can deploy a contract and hopefully make some money off of that.
Yes. So um, gamification with the learning center, the education center, it's not going to be something that we have right off the bat, just putting it out there. However, in the future, yes. And I do kind of want to go back and touch a little bit on what qualifies me specifically to do something like this. So my previous project, I won't go too much into detail about that. We're not here to talk about that today, but essentially it was a Web3 social media platform. And in the platform, we had gamification. You make posts, you comment, you do whatever, and you essentially earn points just from doing all these little things or participating in these little events. So that gamification element, it's very, very feasible. It's definitely something that's realistically that we can do.
That's actually how me and Three met. I was a user of her platform, pretty fresh to crypto, and I was just trying to rack up all these points and tokens on her platform by writing blog articles. I was doing posts and interacting, and that gamification aspect of it was what was really driving me to do it. So yeah, we can definitely see the benefit of incorporating something like that, because it really does drive engagement and use of a platform.
Love that. And James, always really good questions, man. I know you're big into the gamification aspect of projects, because it does make it a little bit more kind of engaging, I would say, a bit more interactive and immersive for people. It puts a bit of a fun spin on learning. So no, I think that's a great. Oh, wow. That's awesome. And I did a little fun Twitter contest, essentially just for people to put out a tweet including the video that you shared with me, Tree, for that 20-second video. I think we got like 25 active tweets out there so far for it, so that's great. We'll pick a winner from that at the end. But yeah, we'll try a new name here. Alexa, if you want to go. Also, Three, Jimmy, if you guys have any hard stops, if you guys have any timing issues. I know I said typically run them pretty open-ended. If the discussion and quality of questions is there, I'm happy to keep it going. So if you need to jump off at any point, just let me know, and I could obviously wrap it a bit quicker. But I was thinking we maybe get a 2-3 questions in live and then get to closing statements, if that's okay.
Maurice, I think you forget I'm a dev. I have no life.
Okay. So yeah, well, you're the same as me then, so we're good. I do this full time. So no issues there. So Alexa, if you want to go ahead. First time I think we've had you up here, but I got your hand unmuted, so hoping Telegram cooperates. I'll get a few others in unmuted too for some questions. Nita, Phantom, Sujay, if you guys want to pop in later on, but we will give Alexa the chance to go first, newer name in the audience. So I always like to hear from new people. Alexa's having some issues. I might go again, ladies first. So we'll get Nita up here second. So Nita could take the mic if she's ready, and then we'll get Phantom and Sujay to kind of close out with the questions if that works.
Yeah, thank you, Maurice. AltCTRL staking form offer reward based on token duration and quantity staked. How do you guys address concern about centralization and token distribution imbalance, particularly if large holders can disproportionately influence reward and decision making?
I'm assuming you're talking about the DAO, just to clarify.
Yes, exactly. So she's asking about the staking farms, if based on how much of the holding or how much of the token you're holding, if that will essentially allow people to skew the reward distribution, or if they would give them any inherent decision-making influence like within the DAO.
Okay, so I just want to clarify a little bit here. The DAO and the farms are completely separate entities. Remember, the farms are simply put, they're not going to be alt controls. They're going to be the projects that come to us. It's going to be their farms. So the DAO isn't really connected in any way to that. In regards to the equity of decision making, we specifically have it so that actually let me get a picture of this, and I don't know if Jimmy actually maybe wants to explain it, but the board is it's not just going to be determined by how much you're holding. It's also determined by the 4 determining factors essentially are how much you're holding, how long you've held, how involved you are in the community, and how interactive you are within the community. So it's not just it's not just about how many tokens you have. We really do believe in fairness and equity here. So it was really important for us to come up with a way to give everybody an opportunity to be part of the board.
With the integration of no-code tools into DeFi, AltCTRL is pioneering accessibility in crypto space. How does the platform address the security risk associated with democratization of smart contract development?
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, that's a really fucking awesome question. Thank you. So obviously security is at the forefront of what we do. We will be getting obviously our contracts audited. Everything within the platform is going to be audited. Currently, I will be honest, things are not audited. We haven't had the funds to do so, but we will be doing that very, very soon. I will say the security that we have implemented, I had a security architect come in and basically they did an assessment of the platforms and told us, okay, this is where you guys are doing great, this is where you guys are doing okay, and this is where you guys are doing better. And I spent about 2 weeks or so just kind of going back and forth with them, just really figuring out, okay, what do we need to do to not just make this good but very, very secure. And we actually do have another assessment here coming up, that's going to be more involved. But yeah, thank you for that question. Like I love when people ask these really, really good questions, because it gives me an opportunity to really talk about like why AltCTRL is so awesome.
Okay, thank you so much, Three. And thank you, Maurice, for the opportunity.
As
Yeah, no problem.
always, Nita, as we say, Buck and I have been super, super proud of your growth here when you first started. The question level, it's definitely, I mean, a lot of the questions you sent initially just didn't even get asked, right? And you've really worked on understanding the white paper, and you listen. And that's the most important thing that I always say to the community is, not everybody at, every point in life is going to be able to go out here and invest in every project they like. But if you actively listen to the projects that are here and you figure out what you like, what you don't, which projects are doing well, you start to develop a sense of a pattern, and you're going to become so much smarter in the space. And like, you're going to look back a year or two from now and be like, holy shit, was I ever green back then? And like, what I know now versus what I know then, I can make a world of difference and help not only myself, but others around me because of that information. So I know you're hoping to kind of do the same concept, with your no code, and allow people who are, non-Solidity people with a good idea, an opportunity. And I think, a lot of the times that's all people need. Sometimes it's just a shot. So yeah, a little bit, I always have to, Nita's just really impressed me and Buck. She's really grown in the last year since she started attending AMAs. So back to some others that have just, been diehards and, really made a name for themselves as well. We got OG Phantom out here. What's going on, brother? Happy New Year. It's been a while. I know you're
What
keeping
up,
yourself
dude?
busy.
Yeah, always busy. Thankfully, I had good friends and mentors in the space starting here. This was my home, so it felt like you were almost talking to me, not just Anita. That was funny. So because that's how I started. I was green, didn't know what I was doing. I jumped in here. I listened. I joined every space. I actively asked questions, and now I host myself and I help projects. I'm a business developer. It's changed my life. So it all started from right here at Caesar's Call. So anything could happen. I was a construction worker before this, so anything could happen, so I try to tell people all the time. But anyways, let me get back to the question. I don't want to hold the team up too much. It's actually a two-part question, real simple. The first part's the question, the second is more of a compliment. How much did you guys raise in your private sale? I wasn't here for the whole AMA. I was actually in the meeting, but I saw you guys live, so I jumped in. But yeah, my question is, how much did you guys raise on your private sale?
For private sale, let me pull up this document real quick. That is the wrong document. That is also the wrong document. Sorry, I should have honestly had this ready.
Why? While you get that ready, I actually have a compliment to give you guys. So I didn't have much time to listen to the AMA. I was late. I kind of came in like the last 20 minutes, but I went through the white papers as the questions were going. And I will say I do one thing is I always click on the clickables to see how detailed the team was, to make sure how much cadence they did and how professional it was. And I saw that the link to your marketing wallet was right there, very transparent. I want to just give a compliment to that. Not a lot of teams have that. And when they do have it, the links don't work. And like everything else is very functional, very informative. And I love the tokenomics, very broken down. And then my other question was answered, and that was by, are you going to go multi-chain? And that's the plan later on. So that was already answered right when I was thinking of it. So yeah, other than that, it was just a private. So I wanted to kind of get a gauge of idea of how funded you are and how much backers you had at that point, at that funding level. Other than that, I think your guys' product is awesome.
Thank you. I really appreciate the compliment. So right now I'm sharing a link to our Google Doc. So essentially we ended up raising nearly just about $27,000 for private sale. And I do want to say that private sale was open strictly to community members who had either been with us for the past year or community members of Spectre and Champion. And those community members from Spectre and Champion were people who I personally knew and was like, hey, you know what? I know you're diamond handed and it looks like, you know, you really support projects that aren't just meme tokens. You know, you're really here because you believe in the project. And in terms of how many private sailors we had 30 private sailors, and I checked last night, and out of those 30, only 3 sold, and the rest, actually the majority of the rest either bought more or just held. So I think that really goes to show that we really did an amazing, phenomenal job in choosing our private sailors.
100%. That was actually more than the information I even needed. So that's awesome. And that's really transparent. Mainly the idea really behind it was just to see what kind of pressure really came to the charts right when the sale went live. But obviously, if you still have a lot of your holders, you know, that just shows the cadence of what you have. And then, and like everybody has to understand, a really big successful project, they all have their wells. So I'm not hating on that private sale. I just like to get transparency behind it. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, like I honestly, I have never seen anything like this within a private or pre-sale, but yeah, at launch and you know, for like the day or so after, there was literally very to non-existing sell pressure. Like I said, for the most part, everybody has held. I genuinely like to believe that people realize, you know, what they're holding, and you know, they feel safe in just leaving it.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was it for me. Thank you, Maurice. I appreciate it. It's good to be back. It was really cool hanging out, you know, until next time, obviously. But yeah, no, thank you for answering questions.
Awesome. Yeah, great feedback, great compliment. Always appreciate you coming by. And Sue, if you want to take us home with our last community question, we've had I think about 6 or 7 read from the audience. So thank you, Vlad, for collecting those. And this would be our 3rd live, so we'll get you to close out, Sue.
Will do. Thank you, Maurice. Hello, Tree. Hello, Jimmy. So I wanted to touch upon the board a little more. I know you mentioned it earlier. I went through the white paper. I like the idea. It's almost like what other projects have, the so-called the whale group, but then you've gone a step further and made it a little more complicated in terms of how it's established and how the 20 people of the board are selected. Now, my first question around that is, where would the board operate from? Will there be a separate Telegram group just for these 20 people? How do they interact amongst each other? How do they interact with you? Where do they operate from, basically?
Yeah, so yes, we do have a separate Telegram group for our board members. You know, in all transparency, this Telegram group is a little exclusive. I mean, obviously, being the whole point of the board is to kind of give that exclusive vibe. You know, you get access to previews that I'm not sharing with the community yet. You get to participate in the direction of the token and the company. You get to leave feedback that I check. We have, different topics in there, just depending on, what it is that we're talking about exactly. But yeah, currently the board has its own Telegram channel, and we right now we're just doing poll-based votes just because it's quick and easy. But we're actually setting up. Still in the process of setting up our snapshot. Which if anybody is, interested, I'll go ahead and drop the link for that. But yeah, we're going to be moving the actual votes themselves to Snapshot. And in the future, I do plan on building an actual voting, portion of the site, just to make it a little bit more convenient for the board members.
Got it. Now, why I'm interested in this so much is because, and don't consider this as criticism for the approach or me being pessimistic about the feature itself, but just from experience, every project that I've been where there has been a whale group, sooner or later, there's a sense of distrust building amongst people who are not in that whale group, and especially when the chart is not doing so well, the community tends to sort of start blaming or thinking that there's something sketchy happening in the whale group, and they're the ones who are controlling the project, right? Now, in your case, I like the fact that it's not just based on the how much holdings you have, but it's also based on how active you are in the community and stuff like that, and then how long you have held. So somebody cannot just buy a huge bag today and enter into that group with any kind of a motive. But with all those different layers, then it becomes really complicated to identify who is an appropriate member to be part of the top 20, because there might be a lot of people who would think that they're supposed to be in the top 20, but they're not, because they hold enough tokens, but they're not doing everything else that's required for you to be in that group. And also, when proposals are made, especially when the treasury funds are to be used, regardless of what options are being put in front of the community, I'm thinking there's going to be a bunch of people, a group of people, and like they say, the people with the lowest stake make the most noise, right? So there's people in the project, and you cannot avoid them. They're in there just to get a 2x and exit and go on to the next one. These are the people who are going to make the most noise, regardless of what decisions are made, what proposals are put forth, even if they're in the best interest of the project. There's going to be some FUD at some point, because it's not coming from the project owners and it's coming from the top 20 holders. So how do you manage things like that? How do you keep the top 20 holders happy, because they're very important? And at the same time, how do you keep those small investors happy, where they feel like they're also equally part of the project?
Yeah, super excellent question. And I just want to say, yes, it is fucking complicated as hell. I mean, obviously the board members and the process for choosing them is going to be a manual process. But however, any project that wants to succeed and genuinely go somewhere, they're not going to stick to things that are easy. So it's not a problem for us, not a big deal at all. And in terms of keeping investors and keeping the board happy, we actually have a great example of this from last night within our community. So we had about the ecosystem funds were being held in my wallet, and we had planned initially to lock those tokens every month, but all of the token lockers that I checked had a 0.35% token fee. Now that 0.35% doesn't sound like a lot, but we did the math, and after a year, it would have been $30,000 down the drain of tokens for us, simply just to lock the token. So I put a vote I put a vote to the board and said, instead of locking the tokens, can we just move the tokens to our Gnosis wallet? The board voted and said, yeah, go ahead and move it to the Gnosis wallet. There's no need to lock tokens and lose money. So last night, a new investor, somebody who I hadn't really seen before, I don't think, they came in and just was very, very persistent, and quite honestly wouldn't they wouldn't they wouldn't shut the fuck up about the wallet. And I mean, could you blame them? No. I mean, that's I think it was like 40% of tokens just sitting there unlocked. So they just kept on about it, and they kept bringing up some site, token sale or locking site that I hadn't checked out. Essentially what happened was I told them, hey, it's been voted on. No, we're not going to do this. Very, very firm in the fact that the board had voted, and if they wanted to if they wanted to change that decision, make more of an effort to get on the board, which not more of an effort. That was a wrong choice of words. They already are doing an excellent job for that. But so what ended up happening was I actually went to go check out that site, and I realized, holy shit, this site doesn't charge tokens. They only charge $150 a month, which is very, very feasible. So ultimately, the board made a decision. A community member brought it up, offered a better alternative. I went, looked at it, realized, hey, you know what? I made a mistake. I didn't check this site out. It's legitimate, it's real, and it's not fucking expensive. So we ultimately ended up locking those tokens. So this just goes to show that, yes, we appease the board, but as a community member, you have the opportunity to come up and talk to us about this, explain why you feel it, and offer a better alternative. Sorry for that really, really long explanation, but yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does, and I think that was important. That was a great example. It was a real case, a real thing that happened. I think that gives more than an answer. It tells you how you go about, um, uh, issues where there's not consensus amongst, say, the board and the community members. So yeah, thanks for that. Like you said, it's complicated, but it will end up being how you eventually treat everybody, the bigger stakeholders and the smaller stakeholders, and it can actually work. So I loved your presentation, like the white paper too. So thank you very much for the answers, and all the best.
Yeah, not a problem at all. Thank you for the question.
Thanks, Maurice.
Thanks, Sue. Great back and forth, as always. And thanks so much, Three and Jimmy, for sticking around. I know these are, as I always say, they're normally only scheduled for about 60, 90 minutes. But often, when the community jumps in and really gets active with some of their questions, we never know where it can go. So I appreciate you sticking around, really good back and forth, some great questions and feedback there from the community. So thank you to all of you guys who tuned in and participated as well. I think Vlad mentioned we're up to over 50 participants on that little Twitter, kind of a little flash giveaway we did there just for everybody who's live listening into the AMA in the comments section. So yeah, Vlad's going to pick a winner from that. One winner will just get a 0.2 BNB prize. And hopefully we just kind of got a little bit more engagement, some extra traction for one of their videos on Twitter. But yeah, no, that really good discussion. So thank you, Three and Jimmy. I'll give you the mic officially to kind of close out with any final thoughts, calls to action on behalf of AltCTRL. But personally, really good. I like doing the research leading up to this. It was impressive what you had built. And, really cool. The why behind it, the thought process was definitely there throughout the AMA. So we'll be keeping a close eye on you. There's a few spaces I do that if you guys wanted to pop in and participate, be happy to have you on as a guest. And we can chat a little bit more about that, Three in DMs. But I'll give you the mic to close out.
So thank you so much for having us. I really hope that this AMA gave you guys an opportunity to really learn more about all control. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. Feel free to ask anybody on the team. We're always willing to answer questions. I specifically tell our mods not to ban people for asking questions. We encourage discussion. We encourage, talks. Not a problem at all.
I love it. And I wasn't sure if Jimmy wanted to pop in and close out, but if he's tied up, I'll just say thanks, Jimmy, for jumping in and covering off some of the discussions about marketing, onboarding, the referral program. I really appreciated some extra depth into that throughout the AMA. So yeah, just really on behalf one last time of Caesars, it was a great discussion. I know this is, very much, a longer term project, especially based on how long you went into building it prior to even launching your token. So I'm excited to see kind of the growth here, and anybody who hasn't yet, just make sure you always kind of check those boxes, which is join the community, do your research, and really understand any play that comes in here to present. But great job, great utility, definitely a use case for it out there. And as the gas fees keep going up during this potential bull run, your use case just gets stronger, right? So it's definitely exciting. And yeah, just want to say thank you to both of you for taking the time. The YouTube version will get uploaded likely by, typically always give around 24 hours. So end of day tomorrow will be up, and I'll drop you the link once it's available.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Maurice.
Perfect.